My name is Regina, and in this video we are going to start some seeds. So it's June, so you're probably wondering, what seeds could I possibly be starting indoors in June? Well, I am starting my tomato seeds for my second round of tomatoes. So I'm starting Roma tomatoes, my second round of determinate tomatoes. My indeterminate tomatoes should be okay for the rest of the season. It's hot, it's been a weird season, but they're still doing mostly fine. So I'll grow those same plants all season long with them. They'll probably end up getting really wild and crazy by the end of the season, but they're still growing. But the determinate tomatoes, as you know, or you may not know, so I'll tell you, determinate tomatoes grow to a certain size, and then they begin putting out their flowers and their fruit. And so you get most of your fruit from those determinate tomatoes over, like a 3-4 week period. You're getting your ripe fruit from those tomatoes. And then they're pretty much done. Now last season, my Romas, I didn't take them out after I got most of my fruit from them. They actually, once it cooled down, they started putting out more flowers and fruit. But it happened so late that the fruit didn't ripen before it started getting cold. So I did harvest a ton of green tomatoes from my Romas at the end of the season, but that wasn't quite what I wanted. So for this season, what I'm doing is, now that I'm starting to get ripe fruit from my Romas, I know it'll be a few more weeks till they're pretty much finished producing their fruit. And so I can get an extra harvest, so I can get a whole bunch more tomatoes. I'm gonna pull those plants out and then replace them with another set of Romas. So I'm starting some Roma seeds indoors so that by the time that happens, these will be ready to go. I learned this season under my lights, 4 or 5 weeks is about what I need for tomatoes to have nice, strong, healthy plants ready to go outside. So I'll start these in here, and then middle of July, I'll be putting them outside. Hopefully they'll be ready, because I'm not going to pull up the Romas until they're done. But my hope is that I'll be able to get them out mid-July before we head out on vacation for a little more than a week. So I should have started these probably a week ago, but I got busy and I hadn't gotten to it. So I'm starting Roma tomatoes, but in addition to Romas, I'm also going to start some early dolls. I have one of these plants growing right now in the bed because they're determinates as well, and I really like them. Like, the flavor is good. It's like a classic tomato flavor. They're, like medium-sized round fruits, and it's producing a ton of those. So I'm going to go ahead and do a few of these too, because in that bed, that 4x8 bed, I have space for 12 determinate plants. That's how densely I'm growing them. So I'm going to grow 9 Romas and 2 early dolls, and then 1 terracotta. The terracotta I'm actually growing in my determinate bed. I want to say I have 1 plant, maybe 2, I can't remember. But the terracotta and the early doll were both free seeds that I got when I ordered seeds. A lot of seed companies will throw in a free package of seeds, and a lot of times they're a tomato. But these are growing, and they're actually a semi-determinate. I hadn't really realized that, or I would have staked them a little differently. But they're really tasty. They're not very acidic. They're pretty a mild, a buttery, creamy, I don't know how to describe it, but they're really tasty tomatoes. So I'm gonna grow another one of these plants in with those determinates. Right now in that determinate bed, I have Romas and Amish paste and the 1 early doll. The Amish paste though, y'all, my Romas are loaded with fruit. I'm starting to get ripe fruit. The Amish paste, I do not. I have 3 plants, and they're growing. They're kind of spindly and wild, and they've grown a lot, but I have 0 tomatoes. 0 tomatoes. Now, spring was weird. We did get hot really fast, faster than we usually do, so maybe that impacted them. It's possible that they're just not a great tomato for this climate. I didn't really research a ton. I just knew they were a paste tomato and people talk about them, so I tried them out. But if they haven't produced anything, then I'll be pulling those out when I pull out the Romas, and I'll just replace them with Romas. So that's my plan. So I'm starting those seeds today. I'm also starting tree collard seeds. Now, tree collards, there's something that I don't know if everybody knows about these, because I just learned about them last year. They are perennial plants. Rather than being collards and kale, they're essentially biennial. They'll last about 2 years if you overwinter them and cover them or whatever when it gets super cold. But tree collards are perennials. They last for years and years and years. And they grow really big, like kind of like a tree or like a bush, depending on the variety. And they are in the collard kale family. And I grew some last year. I purchased the plants from a website called Project Tree Collard, and it's like a tree collard farm in California where they grow a ton of brassicas, including tree collards, mostly tree collards. And I believe, like, you know, they kind of like to spread the word about tree collards because they're a perennial brassica plants. And if, as you probably know, if you're a gardener, brassicas like kale and collards, they are incredibly nutrient dense. They produce a lot of food. And so having, you know, just one of these plants can be really helpful with like food security. So I think that's kind of like part of their mission on promoting them. I had 3 last year. I actually purchased the plants from them. But when we got down to like the low 20s and I had them growing in containers, they didn't survive. They passed away, RIP. And so even though they are perennials and they're cold hardy-ish, they're mostly grown. Well, at least where I purchased my plants from was in California. So I don't think they just did not do well when it got really, really cold. But I made 0 effort to cover them at all, and they were in containers. So I'm sure that's part of it. So I decided I wanted to go ahead and grow some more. They've been out of plants that I want for a while. And so they sell seeds as well. The only thing is that their seeds they're open pollinated. So they're tree collards when they go to seed, because they go to seed and then they just start growing again. Because like I mentioned, they're perennials. But when they go to seed, there are other brassicas on their farm that are in bloom as well. So they often cross-pollinate. So they don't guarantee that this will be like a perfect tree collard plant to the type, but it'll most likely have a lot of those characteristics plus maybe some others mixed in. So the varieties I'm growing are the Jolly Green tree collard and the Big Blue tree collard. I'll put an image on the screen so you guys can see what they look like when they've grown. But the ones I grew last year, they just grew beautifully, and they grew a lot through the heat of summer, through the fall. And it's kind of like if you have a couple of these plants, then unless you have a very specific desire for certain brassicas, they can kind of meet your needs for like collards and kale. You have what you need in like a couple of plants, and that's something that you don't have to worry about planting for years to come because you have that taken care of. You can use that space for other things. So that's kind of my goal in growing them, so that I can grow more broccoli and things like that I don't really grow a lot of. So I purchased these seeds, and I'm going to start a few of these plants. My other fall plants, I'm going to wait until late July to start those seeds indoors, but these I want to go ahead and get going. So I'm starting some for me, and I'm starting some for my mom as well, so she can have a couple. But I'm really excited to be growing these too. So I'm going to grow these in my house under grow lights. If you've seen some of my seed starting videos, you know I have this shelf right here covered in stuff. This smaller shelf is 3 feet wide with lights on it, and then I also have a shelf that's much taller and it's 4 feet wide with grow lights. The grow lights I actually use, they're not grow lights, they're LED shop lights that I purchased and just attached to the shelf. And so far I've used them for 2 full seasons, and they've grown me excellent seedlings. All the plants out of my garden, if you see my garden tours, other than the perennials like the blackberry bushes and blueberries, things like that, fruit trees, I didn't grow those from seed, but essentially everything else, including flowers, I grew from seed in my office here under these LED shop lights. So you don't have to pay the high sticker price for grow lights. You can purchase LED shop lights as long as you have enough lumens, which you want to look for something 1200 lumens or higher, and as long as the color temperature is correct. And I can't remember the number for that. I don't know, I'll put it on the screen. So I just have that little snip there. But if you are interested in kind of making your own grow shelf so you can start growing your own seedlings, then I do have a video for that. I'll link that right here or there. I can't remember which side it'll be on. But I'll link that video. I did a video on how I built my shelves, and you know, it was under $200 to build the 4-foot one because I didn't really build anything. I just bought a shelf and attached lights to it. But it saved me much more than that if I would have had to buy all the seedlings for all those plants that I have growing in my garden right now. So Step 1, I'm just going to add the soil to the cells. This soil is kind of moist. It actually isn't my normal seed starting mix. My normal seed starting mix is just peat moss and vermiculite, or peat moss and perlite, because vermiculite, for some reason later on in the seed starting season, I had a hard time finding it. So I was using perlite instead, but I just like vermiculite. But I did recently find some vermiculite at Walmart. I just look for it whenever I do my grocery orders to see if they have some. And they did, so I ordered a couple bags. And I think next time I will as well too, because I don't know why it ran out and I couldn't find it anywhere. But anyway, so my normal seed starting mix is 3 parts peat moss to 1 part vermiculite. And I just mix that up and add boiling water to kill anything that might be in it, and use that. But I didn't make a big thing of that because I used the seed starting mix I had left and I mixed it with compost for my container mixes. And so I just grabbed some of this because I still had some container mix outside in a bin. So that's what I'm using here, my container mix for this. And I think it'll be fine. I did, however, put it in the microwave for 2 4-minute runs covered in saran wrap, because I don't like bringing outside things into my house. I don't want to bring bugs in. Ever so often I'll get fungus gnats because they just come in from outside or something, and it's really annoying. However, I do know how to get rid of them in a very effective way. I'll have to do a video on that for you guys too, because I have a lot of houseplants too. So if I get insects in my house, they're going to get into my houseplants, and that's just annoying. So whenever I bring in soil that's been outside to use inside, I either treat it with boiling water, or I cover it in saran wrap and microwave it for 4 minutes, let it get all steamy, and then put it back in there for another 4 minutes. Sometimes I do a third 4 minutes because I'm a little bit obsessive. But I just want to make sure I've killed off any insects and any larvae or anything that might be in the soil that are going to start an infestation in here. And I recommend you do that as well. Especially if you have house plants, if you have plants that are always in your house that are going to be prime targets, right? If you don't keep any plants in your house, that's probably not as big a deal, because you'll eventually take these outside and it'll be a non-issue. But I have a bunch of house plants all over the place. So I'm just packing in the soil. Making a mess as usual. I always make a mess on this converted changing table that is now a gardening table. I'm trying to avoid the big pieces though. But the good thing about this soil is because it's seed starting mix mixed with compost, it does have some nutrients and some organic matter, which, you know, isn't going to hurt the seeds. I don't think I need to fill all these cells. But okay. So when I start seeds, I don't really, if I'm starting a bunch of them, I don't really double sow the seeds. You know, a lot of times you'll sow like 2 seeds, right, to make sure that one comes up. But the germination rate on on all of these is much higher than 50%. So I don't need to double up. Then you just end up with a bunch of extra plants. At the start of the season, that's not a big deal, right? Because it's nice to have extras. But right now, I don't need a whole bunch of extra plants. I don't want to have to deal with them, because I have specific places for these plants. Well, at least the tomatoes. So I usually will that's one of the benefits of starting in a seed starting tray, that it's not a whole lot of extra work to just start maybe like 2 extra to, in case 1 or 2 doesn't start. Rather than having to sow double the seeds, I can just sow 1 seed in each cell and then just like 2 extra cells. That keeps me from having to end up with a bunch of plants I don't need, and also save seeds. I don't have to waste them. Okay. So I've already labeled. I use these little popsicle sticks to label I've already labeled these. I just label by the row often. Okay, early doll, terracotta, and then my Jolly Green Tree Collards, and big blue tree collard. All right, everything's labeled. I have the soil. Now, I'll just put the seeds in. So for my Romas, I need 9 plants. So each one of my, this is a cell tray that I've kind of cut up, but like there's 5 in each of these columns, and I did 2 columns for Roma, so that's 10. So just to have a little insurance, I sowed all 10. I only need 9 plants. And then in 2 of the cells, I put 2 seeds because tomatoes separate easily. So then when they come up, I should end up, so that's a total of 10, 11, 12 seeds sown. So I should end up with at least 9 plants because 12 seeds, that would be 75% germination rate. And these have a higher germination rate than that. So it's unlikely that I won't get at least 9 plants. The early dolls, I just need 2. And so I have 3 cells here. Yay for free seeds. It's pretty smart of them to do that though because I really liked these, so I'll probably order them for next time. That's it for the tomatoes. And now for the tree collards. The Jolly Green, I'm just going to sow 5 seeds because I just need 1 or 2 plants, and my mom just needs like 1 or 2. So, and these seeds are actually not cheap. It's like 30 seeds, and they cost like $10. So, definitely don't want to waste these. But the good thing is that you don't need a lot of these plants. I'll probably, if they grow well, I'll grow some for the fall and sell them with my other fall plants where I sell, sell seedlings. Okay, so here they are. This row right here has nothing growing in it. I don't know why I put soil in there. I wasn't paying attention. But now I'm going to grab a tray to put these on. So for most of my trays, I use these cookie sheets that I purchased at Dollar Tree, and they're metal. I used to use the foil ones, and those were like 2 for $1, but the foil ones could not handle the weight of, they could handle the weight of these small seed starting trays, but once I upplaned and used the cups, the foil ones could not handle the weight of the cup, and they buckled. So I stopped buying those, and I purchased these harder metal cookie sheets, and these are only $1. Well, I guess $1.25 now from Dollar Tree. So these should last me for years. But that's what I use for my trays to put the seeds on, so then I can bottom water, etc. So I'm going to put these on the rack right here. I'll grow them on the smaller one, obviously, because I don't have as many things growing right now. The soil is already moist, so I'm not going to water right now. I'll water them tomorrow from the bottom. I'm not turning on the lights just yet because, you know, it's going to take at least 3 days for one of these to start popping up. So no point in wasting the electricity and turning them on yet. But I do like to turn them on before the seeds come up so that as soon as they come up, they're met with that bright light. That encourages them to grow so they don't grow leggy or anything like that. So I'm not going to turn them on tomorrow, but I'll turn them on the day after, just in case I have some early arisers out of this. But yeah, so I'll show you guys what they look like in a week, and you'll get to see how that goes. Okay, so here are those seeds I started. It's been about 2.5 weeks. Okay, so look here closely. Remember this row, I did not put any seeds in. So this row are the big blue tree collards, and then right behind these are the jolly green tree collards, and then the rest of these are tomatoes. Some of them are Roma, terracotta, and early doll. So actually today or tomorrow I'll be potting all of these guys up into individual cups, to their own individual cups to finish their growing indoors. But they are looking great. I have not fertilized them yet, and that's because I didn't use my traditional seed starting mix for these just because I didn't have any made up and I didn't feel like making any. So I just grabbed some of my container mix from outside and treated that like in the microwave to kill any insects. And I just used that to start these seeds. So there was already compost and stuff in that, which is why I haven't fertilized them because I haven't needed it yet. But when I upplant them, I will be using my seed starting mix that really doesn't have any nutrients. So I'll upplant them and fertilize at the same time when I do that. But so far they're looking great. In another like 2.5 weeks, they'll be more than twice this size. They'll be ready to go outside into the garden or into a container. So thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope that you found the content helpful. And if you did, if you liked what you watched, then, and you haven't done so already, please go ahead and click that like button. That helps this video get out to more gardeners, helps me grow the channel, which I would greatly appreciate. And of course, if you'd like more gardening content like this or out in the garden, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to make sure that you never miss an upload, click that bell notification so that you'll get a YouTube notification whenever I post a video. So once again, thank you for sticking around, thank you for watching, and until we meet again, have a great one. Bye.